Today I'll be baking with King Arthur flour, which was sent to me by a patron. I'm not sure what to expect. Hi, I'm Sune and I'm a food geek. So one of my patrons by the name of Leon sent me some pretty high-end King Arthur flour called Sir Lancelot. It's high protein flour sitting at about 14%, which is pretty high. They never tell you what proteins are in a given flour, so it might be the wrong kind even if it has 14%. The right type of proteins is the ones that have lots of potential gluten. My assumption going into this is that there's a lot of potential gluten in this flour because that is what makes it valuable to bakers. Today I'll be baking one loaf with this flour and one with my go-to flour, an Italian flour called Caputo Manitoba Oro. That flour has 14.5% protein and is certainly the right kind because you don't need to do much with this dough to achieve fantastic gluten development. What I'm going to be focusing on is how the dough develops, the gluten strength, how it is to work with, and the final result. This will be interesting. If you're new to this channel, I bake a lot of sourdough bread and I make delicious food from all over the world. If you want to see more of this content, please join me by subscribing and ringing the bell so you won't miss any future videos. Except for the whole grain component, I'll be using my standard experiment dough. I want to see the effect of each flour undiluted. So it's 100% bread flour, 80% hydration, 20% inoculation, and 2% salt. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider becoming a member at Patreon. You can also buy some merch or use the links in the description for tools and ingredients. Those were the words. This is the experiment. This is not a recipe, it's an experiment. If you want to learn how to make sourdough bread, I recommend that you watch my master recipe. The link is in the description. First, I'll mix all of the ingredients for the dough with the Caputo Manitoba Oro. Then I mix all of the ingredients for the dough with the King Arthur. Then both doughs rest for an hour to develop the gluten. Then I do 3 sets of stretch and fold spaced out by 30 minutes. Notice how the dough develops during each stretch and fold. Then both doughs go into proofing containers. As you can see, I've started using baking spray in the proofing containers. It works wonders. I'll show you later. and then into the proofer. After the dough is risen by 50%, I pour them out of the containers. Look how easily they come out. Amazing. Alright, then I pre-shape each dough. The King Arthur flour is a bit sticky but comes together quickly. And it's quite the same with the Caputo. I'm used to having 20% whole grain in my bread, so it's a little less fluid. But working with them is a pure joy because of the fantastic gluten network we have in both doughs. Then they rest on the counter for 20 minutes. And then it's time to final shape them. Could you tell the difference between the two doughs? Then they go into the fridge for 8 hours until I plan to bake. I bake the Caputo first. I dust the bottom with rice flour to help it come effortlessly off the peel. Wow, that's a great looking dough. I score it. And then I put it in. What? Effortlessly, my ass. Alright, think quick. Maybe I can release it. Nope. I'll put it back in the Banneton. And more rice flour. Whew. Back in the oven. Damn! Oh well. Then, just before the Caputo bread is finished, I prepare the King Arthur bread. Yes, I apply a lot of rice flour. Then I flip it. Score it. That doesn't look half bad. And I move the Caputo bread to the side. And I put the King Arthur bread in the oven and bake it for 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, I remove the Caputo bread and I let it cool on a wire rack. And then after 25 minutes more, I remove the King Arthur bread and I let it cool too. Alright, let's have a look at the crumb of these two loaves. Okay, time for taste test. First, let's examine the crumb. Well, it's pretty dense in the Caputo bread. That probably has something to do with the The handling. The King Arthur bread has a nice open crumb. All right, let me taste them. Delicious. Slightly tangy, good bread taste, crunchy and delicious crust. Very moist crumb in a good sense. Okay, the King Arthur bread. Did I mix the flours? It's all the same things that I've said about the other bread. Weird. So, except for the little mishap, which probably cost me the open crumb, they looked very similar. I've baked lots of open crumb bread with this flour, and I know it can do it. Otherwise, the handling and the gluten development were amazingly on par. The fermentation took the same amount of time, the shaping felt the same, and they almost tasted identical in the end. That's mind-boggling. If I lived in the States, I'd use this King Arthur flour as my go-to artisan bread flour. I hope you learned something today. See you next time.